Remote desktop is a really convenient way to access your computer from either another computer on the same network or another computer somewhere else in the world. The first thing we need to do to enable and configure remote desktop connection is to turn the feature on within Windows. So it's a really similar process within each version of Windows. This is Windows 7. First we just need to click Start and then find either Computer or My Computer. Could also be on the desktop. Right click it and go to Properties. Now in Windows XP you'll be taken straight to the System Properties dialog. In Windows 7 you need to then click under Computer Name, Domain and Workgroup Settings, click Change Settings, and then you'll get to the System Properties dialog, which is here. So within this dialog box you need to go to the Remote tab, which is the same in each version of Windows, and you need to change it from Don't Allow to Allow. And in Windows XP you just need to put a tick in the box under Remote Desktop. We then can select the users. This is a bit of a weird way to do it, but you click Select Users, then Add, then Advanced, then Find Now. Then it will list every user on the computer. You can then choose a user. I suggest just making a non-administrator account for this purpose. Just select it, click OK, OK, OK. Pretty similar in each version of Windows again to do that. And that should enable remote desktop connection to allow another computer to remotely connect to this one. If you're using a firewall, you need to configure the firewall to allow access to the computer. Otherwise, each request to control the computer using remote desktop will just be blocked. I'm just going to demonstrate with the Windows firewall because everyone's probably using different firewalls. So this is actually Windows Server 2003, but it's very similar to Windows XP. And to configure the Windows firewall, we need to just go to Control Panel. This will vary slightly depending on how you've got it set up and which operating system you're using. And for me, I get a list. You might just be able to click Control Panel and open a window. Either way, you just get to the Windows firewall. If you can't find it in Control Panel, just switch to the classic view. It'll show up just as Windows Firewall there. Once it loads, make sure you don't have a tick in Don't Allow Exceptions, because we want to allow exceptions. Then go to the Exceptions tab. There should actually be a remote desktop program listed there. Just put a tick in the box if it's not already ticked. You can then go to Edit. You'll see that it's port 3389. That can actually be changed to increase security, but I won't be covering that in this video. But if you go to Edit, then change Scope, you see it's set. I've got it set on any computer, including those on the internet. You could change it to My Network Only. So pretty self-explanatory. Only allow computers that are on the same network to access it, or allow any computer in the world to access this computer. So I'm going to leave it on any computer for now. You choose which one you want to use. Pretty similar. So open Control Panel from the Start menu. Go to System and Security, and then under Windows Firewall, click Allow a program through Windows Firewall. If you're using a third-party firewall, you'll have to configure that. Again, Remote Desktop should be already in the list, and you just put a tick under either Private or under Public, or both. Again, you decide whether you want only computers in your network to be able to access it, or any computer in the world. You'd have to click Change Settings to actually make any changes there. The next thing we need to do is to give the computer you want to remotely control a static internal IP. So if we open Control Panel again, there's a Windows 7. and go to Network and Internet. Then click Network and Sharing Center. Then in the sidebar, click Change Adapter Settings. Choose the network adapter that you're using to connect to the network. Right click it and go to Properties. Then choose TCP IPv4. Go to click Properties and then choose Use the following IP address. Then you'll want to type in 192.168. It's usually 0.0, then make up a number. Then for the subnet mask, you probably want 255.255.255.0. And then the default gateway is the IP of your router. If you don't know what to put in these, then before you actually change it to use the following IP address, if you just open command prompt, just type in cmd into the run and type ipconfig, all one word. It will list the current settings there. So we've got the IPv4 address. You could basically just copy it into there. Doing this will just make sure it doesn't change. Then you can see 255.255.255.0 for the subnet mask, and then the default gateway in my case is 192.168.0.1. Then for the DNS server, you could just use something like OpenDNS, which is 208.67.222.222, and then the alternate DNS server 208.67.220.220. Then just click OK, and that's in Windows 7, given a kind of static IP, an internal IP that is. Just need to open the network connections dialog, or window rather. So we can find that in Control Panel. Then we can open network connections. It'll be pretty obvious how to open it. In my case, I just need to right click it and select open. Find the network adapter that you're currently using to connect to the network and the internet. Right click it and select Properties. And then under the General tab, from here it's basically the same as Windows 7. You just scroll down, select TCP/IP, Internet Protocol, Properties, and use the following IP address, use the following DNS server. Again, you can just click Start then Run, type in CMD, open command prompt, type in ipconfig to find the current settings and just copy them into there. DNS server, again, you could just use OpenDNS. You could use Google, which is, I believe it's the DNS server is 8.8.8.8, and then alternate one 8.8.4.4. So you just do that, and that means the internal IP is always the same, which will come in very useful a bit later on. So now that we've correctly configured the computer to allow remote desktop connection, we can go to another computer within the network and connect to it. So I'm just going to use remote desktop connection for Mac. We need to type in the IP address. I'm going to connect to the Windows 7 machine. The internal IP address, remember that was set earlier. In my case it's 192.168.0.34. Then on the end, you need to add a colon, then 3389, because that's the port we're connecting to for remote desktop. You may be asked to enter a username and password. Now it may just connect first, then ask you for a username and password. It really depends on the client or the remote software that you're using. I just type in the credentials for an account on this machine. It will connect, it will start a new session, and I now have control over the Windows 7 machine from a different computer using remote desktop. So that's great if you want to connect to it on, like, within your network. I can demonstrate with another computer as well. Sometimes you might get a security warning. And then from here we could log on and start a new session on the machine. If you want to use remote desktop connection to control your computer from a different network somewhere else in the world, then there's a few extra steps we need to take to enable that. Firstly, we need to enable port forwarding on our router. Now, because each router is different, I'm going to send you to portforward.com for this step. They have details on how to set up port forwarding on just about every different router that exists, so you just need to find yours in the list. And we need to forward port 3389 to the computer that you want to control on the network. For me, if I wanted to remotely control my Windows 7 machine from somewhere else in the world, I would, on the router, forward port 3389 to 192.168.0.34. Once you've done that, you should be able to find your IP. You can always find your IP address by going to whatismyip.com. This is your external IP address. And then you go to a different computer anywhere in the world, and you'd open remote desktop. You type in your external IP, then put :3389 on the end. Then your router would forward that request to that specific computer on the network that you forwarded the port to. And that's all you need to do to enable remote desktop from a truly remote location. A lot of people actually have dynamic IP addresses. That means your external IP will automatically change every so often. There's a way to make this easier by using dynamic DNS or dyndns.com. You can sign up for a free account, and then this lets you give your IP a host name, so like a domain name. So what you need to do after you've signed up is go to add host service. Then you can go to dyndns.com/support/clients, and you can download the program for either Windows OS 10 or Linux to update the service when your IP changes. Once you've set up dynamic DNS, you'll be able to open remote desktop connection again, type in the host name you set up instead of the IP, and then stick :3389 on the end, and you should be able to connect. So that's how easy it is to set up remote desktop connection. A couple of extra steps to enable remote desktop connection from a different network, but it's not very hard at all. So it's really convenient to use remote desktop connection for a variety of reasons. Hopefully this video has helped you configure it and set it up and get it working for your needs. My email address is jake@jakewright.net if you have any questions regarding this tutorial. My website is jakewright.net, where you'll find more tutorials like this. You'll find a live video stream, a live chat, and lots more. Thanks for watching.